very warm welcome to Gaming News Weekly, your weekly game news show every Friday at 5 p.m. with your hosts, me, I'm Rich, and my good friend Tabs. Say hello, Tabs.
Hey up, everyone.
We hope you're good this week and you've had a good week. You've had a proactive week. You've had some gaming. I certainly have managed to fit in some gaming, which is great. We're going to go into that shortly. We have three, I'm not sure whether you could describe them as juicy stories this week, but they're the best of a bad bunch, I guess you would say, of what a slowish news week. So we'll bring you that shortly, but we'll start we'll start as we do every week with what we've been playing this week, if anything, with our busy lives. But Tabs, why don't you kick us off? What have you been playing this week?
So, I think I've played some Death Stranding this week. Excellent. I'm not sure though. I'm not certain on that. I may have played some on Monday. Anyway, I'm in the second area. I've stolen a mule truck, as advised by your good self, Rich. You know, I've been batting between, I feel like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, the Elder in the mountains. And then I've just gone to a 5th place, which is right down south, to make my first delivery there. Nice. And like this mule truck is just slaying for me in terms of deliveries. Yeah. It's just, I'm still having to make choices. I can't do everything as I pick it up. But yeah, it's just making life a lot easier than the first time I did it. And also, mate, I don't know about you, but when I did the one behind, is it the Craftsman? Where the VTs are?
Oh, yeah.
And again, last time I just didn't use hermetic grenades at all on BTs in when the world's normal. And this time I'm using hermetic grenades. It's amazing. You just clear the BTs out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't know why I didn't connect those dots, and it's just like, it's not an issue. I would say the vast majority of deliveries, I've got an S, awesome, whatever.
Yeah, agreed.
Maybe only a couple I've had like an A. Even though it's on hard mode, although, and let's throw over to you, mate, I know the cliff bits are going to be a struggle from what you're saying, especially because we're on hard mode, aren't we?
Yes.
So why don't we, that's me this week. What about you?
Just to tag on to what you've said, you go into that BT section you're mentioning, well, that old delivery terminal has, if you look on the private locker in that place, it has got tons of materials, mate. I've had to go there with 2 hovering, floating truck things, the things that come behind you, and then basically take everything out of there because I needed the materials. So you got your ceramics.
Yeah, you told us one week.
I did, yes. Yeah, I got everything. There's actually, I didn't realise, they've added some new road networks to the Director's Cut edition that weren't there previously. As I understand, I don't know because I didn't build these, but as I understand, these weren't on the original. There's like a road that goes from basically up into the mountains. It like crosses from one side of the mountain to the other that you couldn't do before. So that's really interesting.
That is really cool.
I thought I was building a road up to the weather station, but actually the road goes past the weather station up into the mountains. So yeah, there's an additional road I think they've added there. This week, moved the story along as Tabs mentioned. I've got to the first cliff section. I've managed to do that. Don't like it. I say to Tabs, I think the reason why it's difficult is there's no cover system. So, games like Uncharted, lots of games, there's cover system so you can get into cover, whereas there isn't. And obviously the way that you take damage on this, when you get shot by bullets, you start to bleed and that kills you very quickly. So it's quite realistic in terms of its damage model, which is cool, but it makes it quite difficult. So I think that's one of the reasons I've been struggling. Although I did say to Tabs, it's also possibly because I'm just not very good at games. So bear that in mind when I'm saying that. Right, I think that's enough about that. Should we head into this week's news stories? So first up, we have got cancelled Tomb Raider game. So let's get into that. And this comes from IGN. As part of its 25th anniversary celebrations for Tomb Raider, Square Enix has published 3 new videos featuring an array of details from the cancelled survival horror game Tomb Raider Ascension. As shown on YouTube, the 3 videos focus on different elements of what could have been for Ascension, had the game not been replaced by the franchise's preferred 2013 reboot. In the first clip, the publisher shows off a range of concept art for the game where fans can see its island setting as well as a number of characters' designs. After narrowing in on the concept of a survival story on a remote island, says Square Enix in the video description on YouTube, Crystal began developing what was internally called Tomb Raider Ascension. At one point, Ascension felt closer to a horror game than the Tomb Raider title. Eventually, the concept evolved into the original story told in the 2013 reboot, keeping the key survival components with a dash of supernatural terror. So that's very interesting. So basically what they're saying is before they rebooted back in 2013, they were going to have it as more of a survival horror game rather than sort of the survival type game it is now, where you've got to craft stuff, which a really good game. I really enjoyed that original game. I feel like it was a good decision not to go survival horror from my side. I think that would have, I don't know whether that would have fitted with the Tomb Raider model. You know, was it, what would a Tomb Raider survival horror be like? You know, it was so far removed from what the essence of that game is, and the original game, you know, back on PS1 maybe? Can't think, or maybe even PC, I can't remember. But yeah, I don't know, I'm not sure what I make of whether that would have been a good idea or not. What's your take on this, Tabs?
Because I'm always an optimist for these sorts of things, I actually think it would have been really cool to see what a Tomb Raider survival horror style game, like Tomb Raider Resident Evil basically, would have looked like. But I 100% get what you're saying. You know, if you're a massive fan of the series, it's quite a diversion, isn't it? And, you know, unless you nail it and you just make an astoundingly good game, you're risking a lot in alienating an existing audience of a franchise.
I mean, you've got to say, ultimately, the reason they went the route they did was, it's got to be a decision, you know, marketing decision. You know, it's going to be easier to sell, you know, what is a straight up reboot of the series rather than almost like a pivot to something slightly different. And then how would the fans react to that? You bring on different fans. It's more risky, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And we know in business, especially these days, more so than ever, risks are everybody's very risk averse. They want guaranteed, you know, cash cows, you know, and more of the same in many cases, which is a shame. That's why, though, that I'd love to see genre switching almost a bit more in video games. Like, you know, make a Mario game like a Zelda game, make a Zelda game like a Mario game. You know, it's never going to happen. It's not realistic. But certainly, I'm all for spin-offs and for perhaps lending IPs, much like I suppose Nintendo did with Ubisoft and Rabbids. You know, we saw, and to an extent you see that, don't you? See evolutions of franchises like Zelda Breath of the Wild. We always talk about it. So I just like fresh takes at things, and I know there's risk attached. But yeah, I mean, just hearing about this story, I put it in the news because I thought, oh, that would have been really cool. You know, I do like some of the vibes of past Tomb Raider games. You know, you're in tombs. It does have a creepy feel to it. You feel quite isolated. You know, you're coming across, well, in the past we've seen dinosaurs, haven't we, and all sorts.
Yeah.
I mean, Tomb Raider 2, mate, that butler following you around, I mean, that was scary AF.
Yeah, agreed. The only thing
they could have made that into a survival horror game on its own.
Definitely. Sorry, mate. The only thing I will say is if you've played the reboot that we're talking about, then the direction it did go, the island was really eerie. Like they would have been a really scary game as a survival horror. I thought they did well to create atmosphere in that game. So I think maybe that comes from some of the fact that it was almost destined to be a horror game to start off with. But yeah, I think that would have been very interesting. I think it would have been scary as well. So that's really cool. But yeah, I don't know.
Right, my friend. Well, shall I move us on?
Go for it, mate.
Let us know your thoughts, BArcadians, if you have any about a Tomb Raider survival horror game or genre switching generally. I would love it. Anyway, so second story, CDPR delays. So this comes from Eurogamer, and they had this to say. I almost can't believe I'm writing this, but Cyberpunk 2077 has been delayed yet again. The game's long-awaited PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S versions will now not launch until the first quarter of 2022. CD Projekt has now said. An exact new date was not given. The Witcher 3's PS5 and Xbox Series X and S versions will now arrive even later still, currently in the second quarter of next year. CD Projekt Red broke the news via a Twitter post this afternoon, nearly a year after the game's much delayed and ultimately disastrous launch for PS4 and Xbox One. You're loving this. And also PC, where it went pretty well. We have an important update, they said, regarding next generation updates of Cyberpunk 2077 and The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt for consoles and PC. CD Projekt wrote, based on recommendations supplied by teams supervising the development of both games, we decided to postpone their releases until 2022. Our current target for Cyberpunk 2077 is the first quarter of 2022 and second quarter of 2022 for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Apologies for the extended wait, but we want to make it right.
That last line is excellent.
Yes. Again, there's two sides. You know, I feel for them and for the continued humiliation that they must face for, you know, the whole saga of Cyberpunk 2077. But, you know, at the same time, it's frustrating, isn't it? Like, it feels like they've not even learned lessons here, you know, with the fact that they were going to give facelifts, next-gen facelifts to these games. And the workflow is obviously still not tight enough to, you know, to fulfill and deliver on these deadlines that you would have thought they'd have put a lot of padding in place there to prevent any issues.
I mean, the only thing I will say on that, obviously we've spoken at length on this channel, and you can go back and watch the videos. We've done it to death about the problems with Cyberpunk 2077. And one of the things we say is they were just too eager to put it out. They weren't listening to the development team, the marketing team, and, you know, ultimately the people that were holding the purse strings were saying, no, it's going on this date. We don't care. If it's not finished, it's not finished. Well, it's interesting to see that they've taken direction from people on the shop floor. I think that's very clever.
Based on recommendations supplied by teams supervising the development of both games. That is very clever. Yeah, go on.
You know, and it suggests that they are learning. They're understanding the mistakes they made with Cyberpunk. But I mean, Tabs is a bit tongue in cheek there. It's possible that that's all nonsense, and they've just, you know, it isn't ready. It's as simple as that, and they don't want to have the same faff again. And they've not spoken to the development team at all. But I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt on this, and they've learned from their errors which they made in Cyberpunk, which was obviously going way too early on it, probably 12 months early, let's face it. Still not realistically today, it's still not the game we were promised through all of the marketing material. So yeah, hopefully this is going to be, at the end of the day, we know that CD Projekt Red make good games eventually.
And can make good games. They have proven it in the
exactly.
past. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I don't want to see them disappear as a game developer. You know, they're independent for starters, so that they're not tied to anyone specifically, and they make good games. So we want to see them stick around. And I think it's time that they sort of took a step back and tried to reevaluate the company and not do any more missteps, because I think too many more missteps, and, you know, it could be very difficult for them to get back their reputation within the industry. So I'm sort of happy with this in some respects, because I don't want to see them tarnish their brand any more than they already have.
Just a final word from me. I think it kind of says two things, doesn't it? There's the wording in there. If we take it as read, and we probably should, benefit of the doubt, let's try and trust in what we're being told, then it does sound like there's a hint of them learning. You know, they could have tried to just force this out and fallen flat on their face again, so that's positive. I think the other side of it is, it still doesn't sound like their workflow, their productivity, you know, their culture has come full circle how I think they need to. You know, we've seen from modders and stuff how productive, you know, amateurs have been in trying to make changes to the game. And the progress at times with Cyberpunk and the fixes and the modifications they're making, it just seems glacial. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure I'm ignorant to reasons as to why that is. You know, the pandemic being one, the difficulty in, you know, trying to piecemeal update a game that's already been released. I'm sure there's definite challenges there, but yeah, I just feel like they need to be more agile. And that perhaps is what contributed to the fact that it wasn't ready to begin with after years of development. They need to look at making changes internally to just be more agile as a company. And, well, we've talked about scaling down projects, haven't we, as well, which we think they might do with future IP. But, yeah, like you say, mate, let's just hope they get it right and they can rise from the flames like a phoenix, as we say. But yes, is it you? You're moving things on to story number 3. I never know where I am with these things, do I?
Absolutely. So unfortunately, the title of this is Elden Ring Delay, so more delays. And Kotaku had this to say. February 2022 was already packed full of big game releases. Now, From Software has added another to the list, delaying Elden Ring a month from its original January 21st, 2022 release date. In the meantime, the game will get a player demo next month as grainy in-development footage continues to leak online. Elden Ring, the open world successor to the Dark Souls series, will now come out on February the 25th, 2022 to give From Software more time to work on it. And they had this to say, the depth and strategic freedom of the game exceeding initial expectations. The studio announced on Twitter today, in November, it will host a closed network test showing select players the opening hours of the full game. Over the weekend, ugly footage of the game leaked online again, while fans went through it with a fine-tooth comb, identifying locations and gameplay nuances, and the apparent leaker was also quick to try and assuage concerns about the graphical quality, claiming it from an Xbox One version of the game and had been compressed due to capture methods. So another game delay. So we've just spoke about a delay and another delay, and I think this is going to follow suit with lots of things. I think we're at that crunch point where, we're starting to get to the point where games developers thought they would get games done for, and they're obviously struggling. I'm not sure whether I'm excited for this. I'm sort of on the fence on this. I'm hoping it's going to be a really good game. I'm hoping it's going to be fantastic, but I think I'm going to have to wait for reviews. I'm hoping it's a terrific game, but I'll have to see what it's like. And I think, they've delayed it, just over a month. I don't think that's a massive delay. It could be a 6-month delay, so I don't think this is too negative a story. Obviously, it's a delay, but a delay by a month, it's not the end of the world. And especially if they're going to take the extra time and real polish it and it's going to be a very, very good product, that can't be a bad thing. What do you make of this, Tabs?
I mean, like you say, it's not a large delay, and fans really want this to be something special, don't they? And I think it's basically going to be an open world Demon Souls type game. And obviously, with an open world game, we know that usually implies a lot more development time, a lot more work, a lot more balancing and things like that to be done. So yeah, absolutely fine from me. On the leaked footage, I actually did see some, and I was actually quite impressed. They called it ugly here, but I thought it looked quite cool. I think it had that sort of twitchy animation that Demon Souls games tend to, but that's because they give you real control over the character movement, don't they? But no, I was quite impressed by it. I'm still excited. I think there's two sides. I think some people are worrying that it's not going to be as fantastic as it potentially promises, and others are really hyped about it. I remember that original, the official trailer we saw. I thought that landed quite well. I thought it looked good. So yeah, excited. Take a bit of extra time if you need to. And yeah, let's hope for the best for that one, and that it makes fans very happy.
Absolutely right. I think we get into everything else. A few bits in here, plus one which I haven't put that was sort of from this afternoon. But I'm going to start off with Assassin's Creed Valhalla leak suggests a third expansion is incoming and could be titled Dawn of Ragnarok. Very interesting.
That sounds like they're reusing some assets, doesn't it?
It does.
God of War is coming to PC in January.
Excellent. I can imagine that is going to look incredible on PC with all the
4K unlocked frame rates, I've heard.
Wow. I mean, it's a good looking game on the PS4, So imagine it on a brand new graphics card. It'd be incredible. Minecraft's The Wild update is coming next year. Some interesting things in that.
GTA Remastered Trilogy leak suggests sweeping visual upgrades and GTA 5 style controls. And we drilled down into this a little bit for you, BArcadians. Yeah. Rich assures me, I think the wording was there's a bevy of graphical enhancements, isn't there, Rich?
Yes, indeed. Lighting, advanced textures. Yes, it sounds like it's going to possibly look quite a bit different, certainly look a lot better. And I think it's very interesting, the GTA 5 style controls. I think that's going to mean, you have your like aiming thing and stuff, and I think your lock on, by the sounds of it, might be there. So that's really positive.
More advanced combat, because that definitely evolved, didn't it, since those games?
Absolutely. So that's possibly going to be a really good thing. Hoping for good things. I mean, it's out. Is it out soon? I think surely they need to be getting on with that in terms of telling us what it is. Surely.
Very exciting times.
It's a pre-Christmas release, isn't it, Tabs?
Yeah, I'm sure they've said that. It's definitely rumoured to be. So yeah.
Anyway, we'll stay tuned on that. And not quite finally, because I've got one other thing to add, but multiple Resident Evil announcements are coming this month, according to a new teaser site, which is very interesting. We'll stay ears to the ground on that. And just finally this afternoon, we had the first official trailer for the Uncharted film, which I think is looking great. A lot of nods in there for the game. I think there's definitely on that trailer a set piece.
Oh, crap.
What?
No, that's what he says. That's his catchphrase, isn't it? Oh, crap. I noticed that, yeah.
But also, I think there's a set, what would have been a set piece in the game, which I specifically think was a set piece in the game, the plane with the cargo coming out of it, and you had to climb. I'm sure that was a set piece from the game, so that's a real big nod to the game. So looks interesting. Hopefully that will come across nicely and be a good film. So I'm excited for that. But anyway, enough from us. I think that's enough for this week. We hope you've enjoyed the news. If you have, definitely give us a like. And if you're new here and you've enjoyed what you've seen, give us a subscribe. We'd love to have you join the channel. What else do I need to say? I don't know. That's about it. Anything else to add, Tabs?
The archive, mate.
Anything else to add? I don't know where I've just lost, I think.
No, that's fine. I'll come and get rescue from the wood.
Yeah. I think that's all we've got time for this week. Another one for the archive.
Stamped and completed.